The President of the Nigerian Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, has been acquitted by the Supreme Court in what seems to be another success story for the headsman himself. What does this mean to the country, and where will this take that constitution next? Data feeds are coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channels, where you can find our videos. You can follow us right now on m.channelstv.com. We've got all our platforms covered in social media. Be part of the show. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV. Use the hashtag State of the Nation to air your thoughts. Also, the former governor of Benue State, Gabriel Suswam, may have some questions to answer. He's going to be facing the courts very soon on charges of forgery as well as corruption. Where does this take the people of Benue State who are embroiled in what seems to be an IDP situation? We're going to be looking at that in just a moment. Also, in the northeast of the region, insurgents there have surrendered to the forces, which will also be looking in the course of the program. But what does this mean to the war against the insurgency in the northeast of the country? Is it being fought? Is it being won? It's prime time here in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Well, we're following up on this very latest development of the President of the Nigerian Senate has been acquitted by the Supreme Court. Oshoma Liberos is a legal practitioner, a regular on the program. As a matter of fact, he joins me now via Skype. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining me at this time. We're trying to take a look at this development when it all started with the President of the Nigerian Senate. But today, he is a free man. What are your immediate thoughts when you heard about that?
I knew that it was going to be like this, because if you remember, this is not the first time. Even the Code of Conduct Tribunal also told the same line that the man had no case to answer, that all the allegations were hearsay. The Court of Appeal also told the position of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, even though the Court of Appeal singled out 3 count charges that the man should answer to those ones. And then for the Supreme Court, in looking at both appeal, because there was an appeal from Saraki and a cross appeal from the prosecution. The Supreme Court, looking at both appeals, upheld the submission of Saraki's counsel to the effect that the Court of Appeal haven't found out that the allegations were hearsay, and that the people that were called as prosecution witness by the prosecutor did not have direct evidence as to his ownership of those properties, and that the Court of Appeal ought not to have still asked him to come defend himself. And so, to that extent, his appeal was upheld. And then, for me, the big question here is, yeah, it's easy for somebody to go scot-free because the prosecution has refused to do a thorough job. And that's why when people talk about media trial, and this is where we should be worried, because it is always very easy for us to go to town with the news. Oh yes, this man, we convict somebody without doing a thorough job, crossing our T's and dotting the I's, because the court is not a Father Christmas. The state might have had a good case, but the prosecution boggled it. And at the end of the day, what was the cost to the state?
No, let me butt in, if you will, because what the Senate President said was that he was sent to the CCT because after being governor, he became the Senate President. And some people didn't find that funny at all. That's the reason he gave.
Yeah, I agree with you, but also he might have been very smart today. Do you think
he was a victim? Do you think he was a victim of circumstances?
They say he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. And so even though to some extent he was a victim, but his hands are not completely clean. And so because the state is unable to prove a case against him, does not really make Saraki, the victim that is trying to play. But yeah, you can agree what led to all of this. If he had kept quiet and allowed them and played along with the party, he probably wouldn't have, be on trial, that ended today. But be that as it may, the question should be in the fight against corruption. It is easy for Nigerians to blame the judiciary. It's, judiciary, the judge did this. But they forget that prosecution commences from investigation. And so the court is not a Father Christmas. It's not a place you just go and say, yes, I think this man owns these properties. And so to that extent, yes, this man knew that he owns those. There must be a nexus between the alleged accused person and the actual commission of that offense. Otherwise, the court is going to do what they just did to Saraki's case to say, look, this man has no case to answer. Remember the case of Akpobolokeme also. And the question Nigerians should be asking, at what cost are all of these judgments? And so, while it is easy to say, yes, EFCC has done well in some cases, but in other cases, what is the cost? Will anybody be punished for not doing a thorough job? Will, somebody be called to order for this because you had it wrapped up and then you just let it slip away by calling witnesses who do not have direct evidence to establish the relationship between these properties, the accounts, and the accused person. So that's
definitely,
issue,
Boris,